Today on Locked On Rockies, unfortunately, lack of clutch hitting comes up yet again, and bad habits from German Marquez and the Rockies in general. They fall to the Dodgers, but the opening homestand of Coors Field should be the exact remedy the Rockies need.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 5th day of April in the year 2023. I am your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, well, guess what? You are in luck. That's what we do around here is we talk about the Colorado Rockies each and every single day, live on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel or free in streaming on your favorite streaming service. If you subscribe to the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, you'll know when we go live and you'll know when to come hop in and be part of the show. Today's episode of Locked On Rockies is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook is the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/Locked On to get started. FanDuel.com/Locked On. I'm Paul Holden, your Rockies fan extraordinaire. Season number 3 here on the Locked On Rockies podcast. And folks, I'm not giving up. We're not throwing in the towel. I'm not having full hair on fire. But we have unfortunately seen so many of the consistent bad trends, bad habits for the Rockies. German Marquez leaving pitches in the middle of the zone. Jason Hayward again is going class. I mean, the last 2 games against the Dodgers have felt like every game against the Dodgers since 2019. Right? Maybe not so much because of the Rockies' firepower still within their lineup or just with Nolan on the team. I don't know if, but certainly more offensive fire. You think of those teams and just those guys of having more offensive firepower than the current Rockies. But there was nothing shown from the Rockies in those 2 games against the Dodgers that shows that they're even close. The biggest questions I always take away from Dodgers series, and to be totally honest, last night's game was definitely still winnable. Even with the home runs, German's line wasn't necessarily awful, but it's the exact issues we saw with German last year. But how do you come away? And I really do want, I would actually really love to know this question, and I coming up from genuine, and I would want to hear the answer, but the Rockies play the Dodgers all the time, so much. I mean, of course, being in the division. What is the front office thinking as they watch these games? Because here's the deal. If you want to say you're competitive, if you want to say that you are a championship caliber team, the Dodgers have been the standard for a decade now. They have I know they've only won the one and such, but they are an 100-win team. They are leading the league in categories. They are always good, and they do it in every asset. They spend money the right way. They draft and develop. They are a well-oiled machine. So I really do want to know, when the Rockies are comparing, and when the Rockies, because you of course compare. I just don't understand how you can sit here and say that the Rockies and Dodgers are on the same level. The Rockies, in order to beat the Dodgers with this lineup and recent lineups that they've had, they have to play perfect baseball. The Rockies will beat the Dodgers this year. Yes, they will. But it won't be a lot. The Dodgers are so good because they capitalize on every mistake, whether it be a missed pitch, whether it be a missed pitch from an umpire, whether it be walks that you are given, whether it be, it doesn't matter. The Dodgers are good because they do things the Rockies don't do. If the Dodgers come up with bases loaded and nobody out in the heart of their lineup, you expect the Dodgers to score a minimum of 2 to 3 runs. The Rockies have not shown that. You cannot have a situation where you can flip the momentum, flip the script, back up your pitcher, help him out, and the core of your lineup comes up. Chris Bryant, CJ Cron, Ryan McMahon, bases loaded, nobody out, no runs. That's the issue with the Rockies. When you're looking for the biggest problem, that's it right there. Because the Rockies used to win shootouts. Because the Rockies, yes, they might have given up runs. Yes, their pitchers might have given up more, but the Rockies would score. What we've seen so often from the Rockies, especially on the road, is this team's inability, lack of ability to score on the road, to drive in runs. That's what makes games like last night and every series in LA so maddening, because you don't expect the Rockies to do anything different because they've done the same thing for so long. So this is a pivotal moment in the season. I know it's crazy, of course, but this sets the tone, and this can at least get the Rockies back to one part of their identity that they didn't have last year, which is being a great team at home. It's tough the way the Rockies opened up the season. Dodgers and Padres on the road, that's tough. But here's the deal. Are we super confident that the Rockies can flip the switch and come back to Coors Field and dominate a bad Nationals team? Let's dive into that, and let's dive into the live chat here coming up in segment number 2. But before we do that, got to tell you about our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. FanDuel is your place for the NBA playoffs. They're almost here, and boy, those Nuggets, they're a little frustrating right now, but hey, it's all right. You got to believe in our guy. You got to believe in the Nuggets, and you got to go get in on all the NBA playoff action at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. New customers are going to get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scores and threes drained. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same game parlay. So like I said, in the end of the season, maybe you believe in some money lines, couple of things, you want to ring in the playoffs with a fun multi-money line parlay. Well, you can do it at FanDuel, and you can get that no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Want to thank you for making Locked On Rockies your first listen of the day. Appreciate that, and I appreciate Brandon Kramer and at Rocks Hot Takes for hanging out here in the Locked On Rockies live chat. Be part of the show. Follow along with the show. Your YouTube subscription is a massive help to us here at the show. So if you wouldn't mind subscribing to Locked On Rockies on YouTube, we're on the march to 500 YouTube subscribers, and it really, really does help the show. We're really close to 400 too. So let's continue to break down the Rockies' start to the season. Take a couple of questions and comments here from the live chat. Brandon Kramer says, over-under on Germán having a clean first inning this year. Germán gets better with time. Here's the deal. We have seen the flashes of good Germán. Yesterday, it was another example of that. And this is, again, where we have to be realistic about the Rockies' abilities and who they have. Germán Marquez is a great pitcher in my eyes. But in the big scheme of things, has he proven himself to be more than a 3, perhaps? How many rotations would he be a 2 or a 1? There are some, certainly, but there is a limit, and it's also the freaking Dodgers at Dodger Stadium. 5.1 innings pitched, 5 hits, 4 earned runs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. That's, again, it's not horrendous because the Rockies are supposed to score 4 runs. The philosophy, the whole idea around the Rockies is they can score runs. Why Germán has struggled so much is the fact that there has just been such little offense to back up the Rockies pitchers when they aren't at the top of their game. But 4 earned runs off of 5 hits throughout from 5 innings, 4 strikeouts and 2 walks, it's not great. It's not a wonderful game. Certainly you expect more from Germán Marquez. He is our ace. Yes. But that's also not a situation that the Rockies should find themselves completely out of the ballgame. The Rockies are held scoreless until the 9th last night, yet have found themselves in multiple scoring opportunities. So is it really Germán Marquez being the big issue? There is issues, yes. Stop piping fast. We know if Germán misses, he misses bad, and he's going to leave the yard. And people are going to leave the yard on him. But how much have the Rockies really backed up their pitching in the past few years, especially the last 2? This is the trend. This is the issue. This is what I talk about when I'm saying it's like watching the same thing over and over again. It doesn't matter if Germán Marquez threw 6 shutout innings yesterday, because the Rockies didn't score until the 9th. After having massive opportunities with the right part of the lineup up. Chris Bryant has been good to start the season, but that Chris Bryant has to do a job. You cannot strike out there. Absolutely not. It's baseball. I know it happens. He's better than me. I got it. But that's why Nolan Arenado is gone. Like the Rockies said, you are the guy. You're the guy. And the Rockies need him to be it. And the one thing we haven't seen we've seen good baseball from Chris Bryant, but I need to see clutch Chris Bryant. I need to see Chris Bryant come up there and go after a first pitch and lash it into center field and get a line drive single for an RBI. I need Chris Bryant to come up there hungry and drop an absolute nuke. Maybe it'll come, especially because we didn't see a lot of Chris Bryant last year. But there's just been, outside of CJ Cron and moments last year, Brendan Rodgers, the lack of clutch, the lack of big hitting, I think is a bigger deal to these pitchers than we're giving credit for. The Rockies, it's clear that they have an issue scoring runs. They need to fix it immediately, and it's early in the season, and they can make adjustments now. But we know what this is like. This team does have different bats on it, but we still know what the Rockies, as a franchise, historically are capable of on the road, production-wise. And it ain't always good. It's usually bad. So, the best thing for the Rockies is to come home and dominate. There should be no reason that a sweep shouldn't be on the mind of the Colorado Rockies. This is a bad Washington Nationals team. This is a team that comes into Coors Field and has to get stomped. No ifs, ands, or buts. You have to dominate the pitching. You have to score. You have to get in the positive, feel-good rhythm because you have to start going up against some of the best in the business. Nolan Arenado and the Cardinals are coming to town right after the Nationals, and you go to play Philly, a team that also is on the ropes. I mean, these you had to go through the bully. You had to go through, of course, the Dodgers. Of course, once you had to go and get and have everything that felt good about your Rockies baseball had to go get extinguished by a series in LA again. Show us, just like we talked about yesterday, how the Rockies had a moment yesterday to show us that they're different, to step up and do something that they don't normally do, bounce back. Game yesterday, I mean, much better than the first game. And the Rockies, again, had multiple opportunities. So to sit there and say that they weren't capable of winning that game isn't fair to them. The Rockies certainly could be 3-3 right now, but they're not. So now, turn it around. Make the adjustment. Make Coors Field the place that people dread to play in instead of the place they look forward to play in, because it's they can take it to you. And so they can jumpstart their offense on their road trip. Go after this bad team. The one thing the Rockies know that they can do, if you really want to change how especially the last couple of years, beat the bad teams at home. Beat the bad teams at home. Because this is a stretch where the Rockies could play above 500 ball if they play up to how they open the season. You have a 4-game stretch against the Nationals. Then you have a 3-game stretch with the Cardinals. So say you really got to be thinking sweep against the Nationals, or at least 3 wins there. This is what you're looking ideal. If you can get 3 wins against the Nationals, if you can get a win against the Cardinals, a win against the Mariners, and 2 wins against the Pirates, you're basically sitting at, what is that? 4 wins. You're probably still slightly below 500, but you're getting close and you're playing good ball. I'm just, until the Rockies beat the good teams. I know the Mariners have also started off slow, but until they beat these good teams, I ain't counting the Rockies as winning series on the road. I think that's one thing too that they have to change to flip the script a little bit. Nothing about this first weekend or these first games demonstrated that the Rockies are ready to win on the road. They're good teams, but the Rockies are going to play good teams on the road. So when I'm looking ahead and looking at this, this is a moment where you have to dominate here. You have a homestand coming up here with 7 games at home. You need to win 4, if not 5 of them. And if you do win that many, you're going to get, what is that? That's 7 wins, and then you get to 500. You win 5 games. You win 5 games on this homestand. You're 500 heading out to the trip to Seattle. And say, and then you just need 1 or 2, one to, you dip a little bit below, but you're still all right. You can't get swept because you go back home and then the Pirates come to town and then you go to Philly. And if Philly's struggling, you can still end the month above 500. The path is still there. The potential of this lineup is there. Will they do it? Will they follow through? I think they will. I think this team is going to have a strong homestand coming up. I think they're going to open the season. Let me get the Denver weather check because I know it was not good. I know the projection for tomorrow wasn't good earlier in the week. Let's see if it's gotten any better. It looks like it's gotten better. Thursday is appearing to be sunny, just chilly. And then nice, a not too cold weekend. So it looks like the weather should be all right. And so can the Rockies do this? I'm saying yes. And I'll explain why here coming up in segment number 3. Folks, you want to call the shots. I know you do. I know you guys and gals and non-binary pals have you want to be the GM. We all do, especially when you're a fan of the team like the Rockies. It's not easy though. Let me emphasize, because I've been playing the Pro Baseball GM, the ultimate Pro Baseball GM game on my phone. And it's not as easy as it looks. I'm trying to compete with some of the best in the biz on the Locked On Podcast Network, and it's kind of tough because there are some real good GMs out there. Folks, when you download the Pro Baseball GM game, you are going to have to hire the right coaches and staff. You are going to have to scout and draft your players and navigate your franchise through free agency and all the ups and downs of the season. That means you're going to have to handle the finances. You're going to have to deal with personalities on your team, and you're even going to have to deal with those injuries, because it's a challenging and realistic game world. The best part about Ultimate Baseball GM is it's completely free and playable offline. You can play on the go as you want and when you want to. Locked On Rockies listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo code Locked On in the game store. So if you want a 100% free boost to your franchise when you download the Ultimate Baseball GM app today, or go on the website, you can get that code or that boost with code Locked On in the game store. ProBaseballGM.com. Scan the code here on the screen or look it up on the App Store. That's ProBaseballGM.com. Ultimate Baseball GM. Start your dynasty today. Folks, want to thank you for making Locked On Rockies your first listen of the day. Free and streaming on your favorite streaming service and live on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. You can be part of the show just like Brendan Kramer and Jason. Here we go. Sirkovic, I think I'm going to get it. Jason, I don't recognize the name. Thank you so much for tuning in and coming out here and hanging out here. As someone I've watched the Rockies since day one, it has to be the worst offense they had in decades. I look at the lineups they turn out, and I get deeply concerned. I like the offensive chances more this year than I did last year, but you're right. The Rockies, there's always the narrative, and you hear it. Count it. You can count it. When the Rockies play a national game this year, the broadcasters are going to say, especially if it's at Coors Field, they're going to say the Rockies can swing it. But that's just, the Rockies really haven't proven that. The difference is, I think, with some of the young guys and the embracing of at least a couple of the young guys, and hopefully if the trend goes downwards, the Rockies aren't afraid to punt and move on and and just go with their young guys, which again has its value in itself. But I like the offense potential this year more than last year, with the big exception being Brendan Rodgers missing from the lineup. But I do think Montero adds a power bat. And one of the things I am encouraged by, and I was reading a little bit of, and people have been pointing out, and this was Mandy Randawa points out, Ryan McMahon, while struggling, he's hitting the ball incredibly hard. He is hit ball. This was a stat from last night, early in the game, so it's definitely not totally the same right now, but still, this was at the beginning of the game yesterday. Ryan McMahon, last 4 batted balls in play, 110.7 miles per hour, 106.5 miles per hour, 101.9 miles per hour, 105.5 miles per hour. Ryan McMahon is hitting the ball and seeing the ball well. He just needs to find the right spots, and he just needs to stop striking out. With the new shift rules, with different teams coming in of different levels, I think Ryan McMahon is going to see a nice little uptick here coming soon. And I think he's going to be a reason why the Rockies are going to get things back on track here in this homestand. Those are good numbers. I mean, that is squaring the ball up and hitting it hard. He might not be, he hasn't gotten a ton of hits and things of that nature, but he's not missing when he's hitting. He does already have a home run, a couple of RBI here, 280 OBP, 455 slugging, 735 OPS right now with a 182 batting average there with 4 hits and 22 at-bats. So when he's, again, it's something to be encouraged by, especially because he's had a history of hitting the ball hard, I think, especially of late. But it just is I think a sign to be encouraged by Rymack and that. Plus, CJ Cron still shows that he's got it. The Rockies, I think Charlie Blackmon especially, he's going to be back in Coors Field. He's going to be feeling the energy. It's this is the exact team the Rockies need to match up with. I mean, they just went up against against two playoff teams, against two best in the business. The Nationals have only won once so far this season as well, as they just played against the Braves, and that was a 4-1 win on Sunday. They have now lost 6-2 and then 10-6 against the Rays, scoring a lot against that Rays pitching there. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And we saw last year the Nationals definitely capable of coming into Coors Field and swinging the bat and taking some games from the Rockies. So they certainly can't approach this with a lack of focus and a lack of attention to detail. But this is, again, a team the Rockies should beat, especially if you want to prove that you're not in the bottom of the league. And it's the homestand. It's opening day at Coors Field. Should be a really, really good day. And instead of playing the Dodgers or someone big time, you got an opportunity to really start getting yourselves in a good, positive momentum at home. Taking one more question here, or one more comment, I should say, from the live chat before we wrap things up here today on the Locked On Rockies podcast. I'll take two because I like Brendan Kramer's one here. Stupid Dodgers. Yeah, I agree. The Dodgers are stupid and frustrating and annoying and what we wish the Rockies were. At Rock's Hot Take says, definitely not giving up. Starter depth is rough, but can we talk about the runners left in scoring position left on the bag? I've seen this before. That's the big theme, especially of today's episode. We've seen this before. We've been down this path before. Can the Rockies get us back on the one path where, hey, at least they're really good at home? Because I want to at least have that one to talk about again. And I think they will. I think the Rockies are poised for a big opening day tomorrow, and we'll get excited for it. We'll break it all down. We'll get you ready for first pitch here on Locked On Rockies, a little live episode, opening day edition coming up tomorrow. So come tune in. Come hang out. I know you're already going to be watching the Rockies during the day, so I know you can tune in a little Locked On Rockies here. I want to thank Jason. I want to thank Brandon. I want to thank at Rock's Hot Takes and Joel DeGrace for popping in here, who I think has a comment that a lot of people relate to. Real talk, I had no idea Hayward was with the Dodgers until last night. I don't think you're alone there, Joel. But folks, this has been the Locked On Rockies podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. All you got to do, search Locked On Rockies on your favorite streaming service. You'll be taken to where you need to go. And if you search Locked On Rockies on YouTube, you can be part of the wonderful Locked On Rockies live chat, just like Joel, Jason, Brandon, and at Rock's Hot Takes were today. Folks, hit that subscribe button, hang out with us, and go check out the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast or the Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, and Locked On Buffs podcasts, all free and streaming on the Locked On Podcast Network. Until next time, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.